Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, which I'm sure plenty of you are because this is a video that I don't normally film. I've never filmed a book video, but I get so many requests for just types of book and like my book recommendations, so I thought let me just put it into a whole video. Let me give you guys my thoughts on a bunch of books. I have so many here. I have like my close to like 5 stars or like my 5-star books, and then I have ones that I hated. So I'm gonna give you both, and then I have a couple in between ones that I'm gonna tell you about that I read that are like good beach reads. You know, they're like kind of like an in between, like a 3 out of 5, but like they're good like simple reads if you need something, you know. So I just want to start off by saying that I usually read like a contemporary romance, or like sometimes I'll go to like a thriller, like a psychological thriller. Sometimes like an in-between of them, like when you mix the two, like that's probably like my favorite book. And then I just have like a couple cute little beach reads. So I have so many to show you. And then got a Kindle for my birthday. Literally the best gift ever. I was a big stickler on like always saying I would never read on a Kindle, always books. I can't picture myself sitting there with the Kindle. I need like a book in my hand, like a physical one. But now I will never. That's too far. I will be reading on my Kindle for a while. I don't like holding the books as much anymore. I don't know what it is. I feel like I can read better. It tracks me better when reading on my Kindle. It's easier to just bring around. Reading at night, it's so much easier. It's just like really convenient. I do love having a good book in my hand, but highly recommend this Kindle. I don't know which one this is because I got it as a gift. I have no idea. But we named her Kendall. Kendall the Kindle. I asked you guys what I should name her. I got so many name requests, but I got a few that said Kendall, which I thought was so cute. Alright, I'm gonna start with my 5 stars or close to 5 stars. I'm very picky with my 5 stars, but I've read some really good books and I'm going to show you these, and if you haven't read any of them, this is your chance to go buy them and read them. I'm highly recommending them for you guys, and if you haven't, you just have to go out and get them. That is your job after watching this video. So we're going to start with the 2 contemporary romances that I am just absolutely obsessed with. They're both by the same author, Emily Henry. This one I read kind of last year, but this one I read more recently. This is Beach Read, very popular on TikTok. It's so hyped on there, but it's worth it. This is about a woman who inherits her father's beach house. Before he died, he had like an affair and he brought like that woman to the beach house, so the daughter kind of wants to like clear it out, get out of there. But what ends up happening is she goes there and she's a writer, so she has like writer's block. She's trying to clear her mind, and then she sees that her next door neighbor is a guy that she was like rivals with back in the day. So they are both writers and they both write 2 separate genres, so they have this little rivalry kind of thing going on, and they said by the end of the summer we're gonna switch genres and try to write a book in each other's separate genres. And it's just a bunch of like tension between them, and it's so good. The way it's written is just incredible. She's a great writer, and I think that's why I loved this book so much. So this is People We Meet on Vacation. I read this recently. This is so good. I read this so quick. This is basically about 2 people who became best friends in college, and the book kind of goes back like 10 years ago and then to present day. And the 10 years ago, it kind of shows how they became friends, and they go on like a vacation every year together, so it's really cute. And then it goes back to present day where they're not talking anymore, and she's trying to rekindle their friendship by planning a new vacation for them to go on, but they haven't spoken in like 2 years or something, and it's really good. I liked how it's like you see back in the day and then you see them now and you're like, why aren't they friends anymore? And eventually you figure it all out and a bunch of stuff happened, but the 2 characters in here are, it's just phenomenal. The next 2 books I have are pretty popular. They're more on the thriller side. I read them back to back in literally maybe a day and a half each. This is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This book, I know it's very hyped, it's very popular. Like I knew about this book before I read it. Like I've known about it for a while. So basically it's about this, I don't want to give too much away, but this husband's wife goes missing, and it's kind of just a story about how, you know, where is she, what happened to her. It's kind of pinned on the husband. It really looks like he did it, and they kind of just try to figure out what's going on, like who did it. At the end of each chapter you will get left on a hook, and you will keep reading because it's so good. At the end of each chapter I was like, what the hell? And I would keep going, and I literally just like raced through this book. I know there's a movie on it. I didn't watch it, but I'm sure the movie's not as good as the book. I will stand by that. This is so good, you have to read it. The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. This was a TV show or was it a movie? I don't know, but Lauren and I tried to watch it and it was absolutely horrible. No offense, it was so bad. Do not try watching that and then reading this. It's this woman who has, I think it's called agoraphobia or something, where she can't leave her house. She has like a phobia of stepping like outside due to a accident that happened in her past, but she kind of like gets into this little accident outside of her house, and her neighbor helps her back in. They spend like the night together. They have like a great time together, the 2 women, and then she sees an accident happen across the window. Since she can't leave her house, she kind of like watches her neighbors. She really knows about them because it's like, what else can she do? And she sees something happening to the woman across the street, and then she tries to call the cops and stuff, but they don't believe her. They kind of like make her seem like she's crazy. And the ending in this book, you will not guess it. I literally thought I had it all planned out. Like, I literally thought I knew what was gonna happen. Seriously, this is so good. And then I have a couple that I don't have right now, but they're a couple of my favorite books ever that you all need to read. I have to go on my Goodreads. I do have a Goodreads account if you guys want to follow me on there. I don't really know how to use it. I just kind of keep track of like my books and my progress, but there's a few Colleen Hoover books that I obviously have to throw in here. It Ends With Us. I don't have that with me, but that book, very high on my list. You need to read it if you haven't. I'm sure you saw it on TikTok, but it's basically about, I read it a little bit ago, but it's about this girl who, her father just passed away, and she meets this new like neurosurgeon, and they kind of like, I guess, hit it off. I don't really know. He has a past, she has a past. It kind of goes back and forth between her past with an old relationship she had back in the day, and then he comes back into her life. But it's just things that happened in her past kind of come back to light with her new relationship. It's hard not to spoil it, but it's just, you would think that the book is about, oh my god, should I choose him or him? But that's not what it is at all. It's so good, so beautifully written. Colleen Hoover is one of my favorite writers ever. I will stand by that. That book is so good. And then I just read on my Kindle over this past vacation I went on, Verity by her. It's, I think it was her first and only kind of thriller book, but oh my god, I read that in like a day. It was so good. This woman who is an author, and she kind of gets into an accident, so she's like bedridden, and her husband needs someone to finish out the series that she's trying to write, so he chooses this woman. He says, you can stay at our house, go through all of her research and stuff, and try to just finish the novels for her. So she does that. She goes to his house, big mansion, is very wealthy, and she finds an autobiography that she wrote before her accident, and it goes through kind of like a span of her life when she first met her husband, and just the stuff that's written in there is absolutely sick and horrifying. If you know, you know. Crazy ending, crazy book. I don't know if that gave not enough detail, but you guys just trust me on these. You need to read that. And then right after that, I read Ugly Love. This is definitely a very romantic book, but the story and like the two characters I really loved. It kind of goes between two people, Miles and Tate. Tate just moved in with her brother. She's a nurse, I believe, and she meets her brother as one of her best friends, who's a pilot, Miles, and he had this horrible past, which kind of goes back and forth between them, and it goes between Miles's past, and he had a very bad past. You don't know about it, but you just know he has a lot of issues. He says to Tate, we're not gonna date. We're not gonna know anything about my past, anything about my future, but we can have like a sexual relationship going on, but don't ask any questions. Like, that's it. That's all it's ever gonna be. You can kind of probably guess where it goes, but so good. The ending, you just don't know. It's so good. I don't know how to explain these books without giving too much away, but that's honestly all I have for that. And then I have one more book. So I know I said I love contemporary romance and thrillers, but I just stepped into kind of like a, is it dystopian? I don't know, but if you ever heard of the series The Selection, I saw it all over TikTok and everyone was saying that they highly recommend it. Basically like a kind of like a Bachelor kind of thing, but like with a prince. There's like different castes of the society where if you're like 6th or 8, I think 8 is the lowest, like you're basically poor, and it ranges all the way to a 1, where 1 is like royalty. Women from each caste at a certain age get selected to go live at the palace for a little, basically win over the prince, get to marry into the royal family. Main character gets selected to go in, but she leaves her previous lover, who's very poor. I think he's like 8, I don't know, he's one of the poorer castes, so just kind of between the two, and so good. I'm on the 2nd book now. I literally read it in a day. So good. I know that was a lot, but that was all of my 4 to 5 star books that you all have to read. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You asked for this video. If you're one of those people that asked for it, you're gonna read those books because they are so good. Now I'm just gonna read the titles of the books that are kind of in between. If you want a good beach read, a good little quick read, something like that, you guys can look up the summaries of them if you're interested. I could give like a brief summary, but nothing crazy. One Day in December by Josie Silver, very good contemporary romance. It just took me a little while to get into it. That's why it's not too high on my list. The ending is so good though. It's this woman who sees this guy on the outside of the bus when she's on the bus, like pulling away. It's like love at first sight for her. She spends a year trying to find him, and ends up her roommate brings home her new boyfriend, which is the bus boy. So whole thing, she's like living with her roommate who's dating him. It's like just the whole thing, but it's very good. Then I have a bunch of Leanne Moriarty books. She was my favorite writer for a good period, but still is. She's still very good. This is 9 Perfect Strangers. It was just not my favorite because it wasn't the kind of genre I usually read, but it's basically 9 people who all meet up at a kind of like a resort where you like go away and kind of like relax. I don't know, but kind of see into every single one of their lives and why they're all there, which is crazy, and it gets a big twist that you just don't see coming. I think there's a show or a movie coming out about this. I'm very excited. Another Land, The Hypnotist's love story. This book is actually really good. The ending just wasn't, I wish the ending was crazier, but it just was too subtle for me. But it's basically this guy who dated a girl. She starts stalking him after they break up. He dates a new woman who is in hypnotherapy, like that's her profession. The woman just stalks the hell out of them. Crazy stuff. Very good book. Another one, Truly Madly Guilty. This one, it's okay. It's a bunch of couples. I think it's 2 or 3 couples that get together for a barbecue and something goes wrong. Took way too long to figure out what went wrong. It was too hyped up of a scenario that basically changed all of their lives, and honestly what happened when it did go wrong wasn't as crazy as it made it seem. I mean, it was still bad, but it wasn't crazy. It's still a good like quick little read. And then 2 really nice little beach reads. This one is Secrets in Summer by Nancy Thayer. I just recently read this. Very easy to get through. It's about a woman who lives on Nantucket year round. All like the summer rental people come in, and it's basically about her summer with all of them, like her relationships with them and stuff. It's really cute. Here's to Us by Ellen Hildebrand. She's an incredible writer. I need to read Winter in Paradise, that series, if you've read it. I've heard literally nothing but good things about that series, so that's next on my list after the Selection series. But this one, it was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't a suspenseful book. It was more just like kind of like an easy breezy type of read. But basically it's about 3 women who have all married this man at a span in their life. The first wife, they dated for a while, and when they were younger they ended up getting married, but then they got divorced. He married a new woman and then they got divorced. He had like an affair with their nanny or something, and she was the 3rd wife, and he was a very famous chef. He left them their Nantucket house. He was in a lot of debt when he died, so they're stuck there. They're like, I don't know if we should get rid of the house. They're all like meeting up at the Nantucket house with their families, and you kind of see into all their lives. There's a lot of fighting going on, obviously, because they all married the same man. There's issues. Good book though. It just took me a while to get into. Those are all the books that they're good reads. I'm not telling you have to read them, but if you need something like that, if any of those intrigue you, they're definitely good. I have 3 books that I just personally absolutely hated. I know it's gonna be very controversial, but honestly guys, I can't seem to see why this one is hyped up or why people like it. Don't hate me for this one. It's an opinion, but this book, I think this is a very, very unpopular opinion. If you didn't like this book either, please let me know. Let me start by saying the way it was written seemed very childish to me, very not in depth, not a lot of character development, way too many characters, and like I said, not a lot of character development, so you don't really understand a lot of them. You don't understand why they're doing what they're doing or like saying what they're saying, except for maybe like 4. I can't even really explain what it's about. It's like a family that meets up on their like private island every year or something, and it just goes through the main character, and she like hangs out with her little group of people, and she just like is made to seem crazy. It's really, just read the summary, but personally the way it was written was just not for me. It was very simple. I think it could have gone to way more depth, way more descriptions should have been put in. I just don't think this should be as hyped as it is. I think I rated it a 2 on Goodreads, which was generous. Honestly, I would rate it a 0. I pushed through to read because I wanted to see why were people crying at the end, and honestly I understand why they were crying, but personally it wasn't enough description of characters. Like I didn't feel the tears, or I didn't feel the emotional connection to the characters, so I didn't cry. I didn't feel anything. This is another one that I'm pretty sure is kind of like hyped up a little bit. I think some people really like this book, Little Fires Everywhere. It was a TV show. I don't like the way that they switched some of the characters and some of the meaning behind it. I didn't like the show. It's usually what happens. I always hate the show or the movie that comes from it, but the book is about this wealthy family that lives in this town, and a woman and her daughter move in who aren't as wealthy. The daughter becomes friends with the wealthier women's children, and the wealthier mom gets a little suspicious of this mom, like the poor woman. It's just like a whole relationship thing going on. I just didn't like the storyline. I guess that's just a personal thing. Obviously all of this is just personal opinions, but I didn't like the storyline. I didn't really like the ending. It just wasn't a book for me. I just read it because it was hyped up. I always see hyped up books and I'm like, it better be good. Usually they are. Like the Selection, Beach Read, those books are just so good. Like It Ends With Us, perfect books, but that one I just didn't really like it. And then I have this one. I don't think many people, I haven't seen this in many places, but it's called The Sea of Lost Girls by Carol Goodman. I had to push myself to finish this book. It's about a kid who's in high school and his girlfriend goes missing, basically trying to figure out what happened to her. It's kind of graphic at some points, and also I guessed the ending, not like the whole thing, but I kind of guessed it. I didn't understand some parts. The way it was described was a little confusing, and the girl that died, she was doing kind of like a history assignment, like a big paper on the history of the town and the school and the people, which is understandable why there was so much history thrown into here, but sometimes it felt like a history lesson, and I personally hate history, so it wasn't for me. I didn't like it at all. So those are all the books I have. I have a few books that I am going to be reading after the selection. As I said, Ellen Hildebrand's Winter in Paradise series, and I also have these 3 that I really want to read. Unhoneymooners I heard was incredible. I love contemporary romances like this, so I'm sure I'm gonna love it. It's a very bigger book. And then I have The Silent Patient, which I heard was also an incredible book. This is more of a thriller, as you can kind of see by the front. And then I have One True Love, or One True Loves, plural. Lauren gave me this. She said this was so good. She's like begging me to read it, which I have to read it. Those are my upcoming reads. You guys now know absolutely everything that's going on in my reading world. This is a glimpse into my favorite books, some books that I hated. I know this was highly requested, which is why I really wanted to do this, because it's hard just posting on my stories on Instagram about all the books that I like, I don't like. I think just having a video like this was really helpful, and if you guys liked this video and this kind of video, I can keep updating you guys maybe like monthly about the books that I read, if that's interesting. If you hated this video and you don't want to see anything else about my book life, you can let me know that too. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to see more from me in the future. Let me know if you want to see any more of these. Typically I do vlogs, lifestyle videos, hauls, stuff like that, so stay tuned for those videos, definitely coming in the future. I'll see you guys hopefully in the next one. Bye.